today. So we bring you this video section every single morning wherein we detail things you might have missed out on whilst you were catching up on some of that all important rest. Because whilst it's important that you get rest, I get rest, and pretty much everyone else gets rest, the world of sport doesn't really ever sleep. So more often than not, you'll see certain things happen, certain newsworthy, interesting events that, well, you might have missed out on whilst you were catching up on some shut-eye. But worry not, this video is what we discuss, is where we discuss everything of that nature that you might have missed out on. And the first thing we have to touch upon is, of course, that second and final test match between India and South Africa that is taking place at Cape Town in Newlands. Now, of course, this time around there have been a lot of criticisms on the Newlands pitch, because again, how often does it happen that you see 23 wickets fall on the very first day of the test match itself? And not just that, you have pretty much started the second innings with 4 days still to go. I mean, most of us were predicting yesterday on Sports Today that you're going to be seeing a test match actually be done with by day 2. None of us are giving it a shot at day 3. In fact, I think it'll be very lucky if it makes it as far as day 3. And obviously that has brought the pitch under scanner. We were saying yesterday that it should be rated anything between below average to poor, preferably poor, given the kind of action you've seen hasn't exactly been riveting test action that will be drawing in the masses. Let's put it that way. And now you're getting, crucially, that was just us talking, now you're getting to hear similar noises come from the South Africa camp as well. Why do I say this? Because first off, there's skipper Dean Elgar, who himself, by the way, has played a lot of cricket in Cape Town. He's from that area. He himself wasn't very happy with how it is that the pitch played out, although he stopped short of criticizing it too much. But he did say this. He says that the pitch at Cape Town generally plays a little bit slower, and as a batter, you can adjust to that. This one just seemed to get quicker as the session went on. This is coming from Elgar, who you remember is playing his last test, probably one of the finer, grittier batters that South Africa has produced in recent times, someone who was made for test cricket, saying that this pitch, it tended to get quicker and quicker as the session went on, which is why you saw so many players struggle. We saw the bounce on offer. It was pretty uneven also. I mean, some was just absolutely rocketing. Some were staying a little low. In fact, Elga also pointed out that depending on which end you were bowling from, there was a certain end that was giving you, far more bounce. On the other end, it was a little bit on the lower side. It was being discussed on the broadcast as well. So definitely not the ideal pitch as far as Test cricket is concerned. And it's not just Elgar who's saying this, by the way. Ashwell Prince, the former South Africa cricketer and someone who happens to be part of the current team's backroom staff, himself was not very happy with how it is that the pitch played out. This is what he said. He said that, look, one team can get bowled out on a day. He said, I remember a test in India where they had a formidable batting lineup and we bowled them out before lunch on day 1. If you give a top quality attack bowler friendly conditions, they can do serious damage. But to sum things up, if both lineups can't bat on the surface, that says a lot. And again, Ashwell Prince too is someone who has played a lot of domestic cricket in Newlands. He's from the area too. So what he says holds a lot more weightage here. He himself said, and I think that last line is very, apt. He says that if both batting lineups can't bat on the surface, then that tells you everything you need to know about just how poor it was. And I think it's a fair point that he's made. And I mean, that's a debate that's going to continue raging on long after the test is gone. What is a good pitch? What is a bad pitch when it comes to test cricket right now? We've criticized rank turners, and I think it's safe to say that I wasn't definitely a fan of the way this particular surface was playing, because again, it wasn't very even as far as the contest went. And yes, it did tend to ease out a little bit in the later parts of the day, but even then the bowlers were getting so much assistance that it just didn't make for an even contest. And speaking of bowlers, I think the one bowler who will remember yesterday more fondly than any other bowler was Siraj, of course, with that 6-wicket spell ensured that South Africa were dismissed for 55, their lowest test score in history, and of course since even they got readmitted into the test fold in the late 1990s. By the way, was a bit of a redemption for him because he didn't have the best of first games, was pretty wayward, and opened up after the match and discussed where it is that, he had to improve in this particular match. And his answer is pretty much along expected lines. He said that, look, I realized what I missed in the last game and I wanted to compensate and execute my plans accordingly. I wanted to hit one area consistently, and I did that and got reward for it. Now, I don't know if you guys saw yesterday's show in detail, but I did mention in the lunch session that Siraj tends to have a Stuart Broad's tendency where, in one spell, he can pretty much destroy the opposition. You've seen him do it to Sri Lanka in the Asia Cup final, you've seen him do it here as well. One spell, he just bowled flat out 6 wickets. South Africa had no answer. Yes, bowler friendly conditions, but you have to give him credit for exploiting those conditions as well, making the absolute most of it, being very consistent, and of course, getting his just reward. Fair play to him, really. Although, as I said, as far as this pitch goes, that's a whole different debate that we'll have another time. But we'll switch our focus now from the world of cricket to the world of football and some Indian domestic football news for you. Mohun Bagan Supergiant have sacked their coach Juan Ferrando, and the reason for this being is that their form has taken a bit of a dip. Don't forget, Mohun Bagan are the defending champions. They had also made it into Continental AFC Cup, but they're currently sitting fifth in the ISL standings, which actually isn't terrible because again there is a playoff system, and if you're fifth, it is good enough to make it through to the playoffs. But they have had poor form in the AFC Cup as well, and that perhaps is the main reason why they chose to depart with a coach who did lead them to the title last year. Lest we forget. For the interim basis, Antonio Habas, the man who's won 2 ISL titles with the team that was formerly known as ATK, well, he's taken charge. He was their technical and sporting director. He's taken charge of the team on a temporary basis. They'll probably be announcing a head coach in due time. More football news, and PSG have won their first silverware of the season thanks to goals from Lee Kang-in and Kylian Mbappe. They beat Toulouse 2-0 in the French Champions Trophy, or the Cup of Champions. Basically, if you're wondering what that is, it's the French equivalent of what's called the Community Shield in England. So the cup winner versus the league winner, they play in a one-off match, and then they get to win this trophy. And if you're wondering why it's happening now of all times, well, beats me. It was supposed to be happening before the season, but it kind of got postponed, and it was supposed to be happening at a neutral venue, but instead it happened at the Parc des Princes, which is of course PSG's home ground. Any surprise they ended up winning? I mean, let's stack the odds a little bit more in their favor, shall we? But hey, congratulations to Luis Enrique and PSG. It's their first title in this particular coaching era. Can they get more? We'll see soon enough. More football news, and of course, you had there's plenty going on, of course, in the world of football, even beyond PSG. There has been, let's say, plenty of talk when you're looking at, Spanish football, and you've been seeing a pretty interesting title race, thanks in no small part to the fact that Girona, probably the third biggest club in Barcelona, have been making a remarkable run to the title. By the way, they ended up beating Atletico Madrid 4-3 thanks to a stoppage time winner. You heard that right. 4-3 stoppage time winner. Absolutely thrilling match. And Girona currently level on points with Real Madrid. The only thing that's separating Real Madrid and Girona right now, goal difference. Yes, Real Madrid's goal difference is about 29. Girona's is 22. That's the only thing separating the two sides. Girona still very much on course for doing what Leicester City did in 2016. Upset title win for the ages. Whether or not it happens, we don't really know. But it's definitely been very, very fun watching them attempt to actually get to that point. It's been really, really, really amazing. Heartwarming story, really, even though they currently are under the ownership of the City Football Group. But it's not like they've spent their way to success. They've been very smart, very well planned. Their recruitment has been good. They've consistently built a team and come in from like the fourth or fifth division of Spanish football to make it to the top division. In itself is an achievement, but now they're competing for the title. So that's pretty awesome, whichever way you try to spin it. We'll end with a little bit of tennis news, and it's historic news in many ways. Novak Djokovic has lost a tennis game for the first time in 6 years on Australian soil. You heard that right. He ended up losing to, of all people, it was Alex de Minaur who ended up beating him, and it was in the United Cup quarterfinal between Australia and Serbia. And de Minaur ended up beating him thanks in no small part to the fact that Djokovic was suffering with a bit of a wrist injury. He had to get that checked in the middle of the match as well. But it's a historic loss really for Djokovic, who before this had not actually tasted a loss since 2018. So that means 5+ years, nearly 6 years, he has been undefeated on Australian soil. That is a freakish phenomenon when you think about it. And I think the only thing that really stopped him from winning, don't forget, 2022, he wasn't able to play any Grand Slam. He wasn't able to play any tournament because of the whole vaccine issue. But since then, He's remained pretty dominant. Losing now, though, probably not the best of times to be losing. But again, Djokovic, mentality monster, you would expect him to still be the favorite when the Australian Open rolls around. And that's it from this edition of the Morning Wrap with Sports Today. Thank you guys so much for joining us. If you enjoy our work, please don't forget, like, share, subscribe, tap that bell, leave us a comment, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Don't forget to download the Sports app. And if you're already on the channel, what are you waiting for? Go right ahead, check out some other videos we posted last night, and stay tuned for today. Plenty more coming your way. For now, though, from my side, it's goodbye.